Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you back, or for the first time, to We'll Bring the Popcorn, your favorite film and TV podcast.
Now I want to move us over into our second review of the week. We have Marvel's Eyes of Wakanda. So this is an animated series that dropped every single episode on Disney Plus when it came out a little over a week ago. 4 total episodes. And this is kind of an anthological take on the history of Wakanda and the history of the Black Panther, right? So you have what are in actuality 4 episodes telling 4 different stories of 4 different points in time. So if you kind of think back to our Predator Killer of Killers episode where we talk about the kind of 3-episode anthology where it's dealing with Predator in 3 different timelines, this is kind of a similar-ish type take in theme where it's instead of 3 episodes, you get 4 episodes at different points in history talking about kind of the history of Wakanda and the history of the Black Panther as it ties into not only regular history, but by the time we get to the very end, it does have a direct tie-in to a Marvel feature film that plays out at the very end. We'll get to that when we get to the end of this review.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I didn't see a lot on exactly what the story is going to be like going into this, but Predator Killer of Killers is the perfect comparison to it, but it's also, one was a film, this is a TV series, but it is very much telling, we're seeing how Wakanda mixed in with history, that they've been around a lot longer than we expect, but most of this goes around the fact that a bunch of Wakandan artifacts have gone missing. They're spread out in the real world. They're still, showing how against the real world Wakanda is. There's ways that they could have stepped in and do things throughout history, but they kind of kept themselves secret, even because we got them mixing in with Troy, and we got them different battles throughout history and stuff, but they kept it, they have rules that if you go out to recover one of the artifacts, and this plays a big part of one of the stories, is that they go to recover something, but he doesn't just take the Wakandan artifact because it was stuck. He takes like part of the statue and stuff with him, and that sets off a big ordeal. Like we have to get in and get out without being seen, and it's interesting. And the animation was really solid and fluid, and the voice acting was good and stuff. But I don't think this had as big of an impact on me as like Killer of Killers did. I think they did a little bit better job of having that bigger punch at the end with their kind of conclusion with it. Like, these were solid episodes, but it's one when I finish it, like, I don't know if that's something that I'll revisit too often or go back into. Like, it told a solid enough story through it all, but there wasn't anything that fully like wowed me or made me think. Like Predator Killer Killers, you had the like samurai type of battles and fights, and you had all this, and you had some fights and battles in here, but nothing really stood out too far. And I think it's, because each one was only 30 minutes or so, and you're trying to go through the full story of it all, that it was good, but it wasn't that memorable to me.
Sure, and you just have it kind of playing like almost like a what if scenario almost, but not with the what if premise kind of. So it's like, what if Wakandans had been involved in all these different points in history in some way, shape, or form, and how their mission to get all of these artifacts back to Wakanda that have been misplaced, like taking place throughout periods of time. And it goes on a fun journey. Like, we definitely have our moments where you deal with not only the past, a little bit of the future as well that gets involved in here. And, one episode that really stood out for me was the 3rd episode where it's set up in China or, China adjacent. But, dealing with that statue and taking that piece of vibranium back to Wakanda, and, the guy that's, in charge of going out and doing this comes back and has a passenger with him, and that passenger happens to be one of the immortal Iron Fists that have existed throughout history. And you have this, kind of love story back and forth-ish kind of with the female Iron Fist and the Wakandan agent who's out trying to, get this artifact to come back, and has a fun story that kind of goes through what happens when an outsider makes their way into Wakanda and how they deal with it and everything that goes crazy in it. Like, that was a lot of fun. Like, I had a lot of fun with that too. But get your first real Marvel introduction of an Iron Fist outside of the Netflix series. So this is them really dealing with an Iron Fist type character that they haven't with before, which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of enjoyment out of that too. But I like how it goes throughout history, but you see in the very slight ways that a theme from this episode carries on to the next one, where you have the formation of not just the Dora Milaje, but you have a former Dora Milaje who doesn't want to be a Dora Milaje anymore and becomes something more. And then you have it down the line where that character is now the leader of this group who's significantly older, and it's a jump up in time for another group of this established kind of making their way out. And it was a really fun kind of journey through time, and they found just enough of a way to tie them all together to make it feel anthologic to, make it tied together in a way that makes sense from a flowation of time and a storytelling sense. That I think they did an effective job of doing it that way.
Did you got to a little bit more emotion in the War Dogs and everything else, because you have the people who are sent out. You could talk about that, like Wakanda's supposed to be this just nation that's protected from everybody that no one would want to leave. You have perfection of life here, basically, sure. But you get the War Dogs who go out on these missions, and they're like, it's when you come back from being out in the rest of the world, it changes you. You even get one of the War Dogs is like, just send me back out on another mission. I don't know how to live here anymore. I don't know how to be here. So I did like that depth. I think even though I enjoyed all the episodes, I think that it ended a little better than it started with
sure.
the third and fourth ones, because you got the Iron Fist, you got Black Panther in the last one. The first two are more original kind of stories and stuff set in that world, but the Lion was an okay story. We weren't exactly, because it's one you're setting up, you're trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, well, he's attacking Crete, and you don't know exactly what's going on. Is this Wakanda attacking? And you're starting to slowly unravel the story, but it's not until that third and fourth episode that you really start seeing everything kind of come together and see where we're going with. And the fourth one actually went in a little bit different direction than I was expecting, because we get, with a little spoilers here, we get time travel going on as well. And it's like, okay, I didn't expect to see Wakandans doing time travel and see how all that plays out through the history of time and what they're doing, but how a seemingly insignificant item is very significant to basically the future of the earth and the world.
Yeah, you definitely get that involved in this, and it goes through a fun run of 4 episodes. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It tells a coherent story throughout the 4 episodes that makes it very easy to follow. It's a quick watch, like you said. All the episodes are 30-ish minutes. Some a little more, some maybe slightly under than that. You can get this done in 2.5 hours most, and you can go on about your day. It's no different than watching a film, and I think that works for it in an episodic telling like this, and just kind of short, sweet, and to the point, which I appreciated because, like I said, it didn't overstay its welcome. You didn't go too crazy with everything, and you kind of told this throughput of time story of a little bit of the back history of Wakanda and some of the things they were involved in. And I have no problem spoiling the very end of it, because I don't know how much traction this show is going to gain anyway, but you get the artifact from the last episode is directly tied into the Black Panther film. It happens to be, spoiler alert, the artifact that Killmonger is looking for in the museum. When he goes to rob the museum, the last scene you see in the show is the back shot of, Killmonger in that museum, and that artifact is sitting in there. So you get that tie into Black Panther. And if you're watching the episode, if you remember watching Black Panther, you're like, okay, I know where this is and how this is tied in. But they give you that last shot and that lasting impression of it too, which was awesome. I love to see that that's how it's all tied together. But yeah, it was a ton of fun, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a back history on some of the things that happened to this nation that, for so long has more or less been hidden away from the world until the events of the MCU really brought them out into the forefront. So I was happy with the way it was. It's it's not groundbreaking, it's not game-changing, it's not going to change how Marvel operates or anything like that, but it was a fun setting for 4 stories to tell this overarching story, and I think they did a good job with it. I really do. Like it's one that you don't have to watch repeatedly, but I don't think it's intended to. I think it's just one that you get it for some informational, and you can kind of go back on about your business. So it was effective in that way for me.
I do wonder if it would feel slightly different if they did go the Predator Killers route and made it a film instead of 4 separate episodes.
Sure.
That they, structured and kind of weaved them into each other a little bit more through a film, because you do have those hard stops, and that you could have blended a little bit more in the movie if it would have changed the impact of it or not. But yeah, I mean, if you what it was and what it did it well enough. Like it told a simple story throughout there, but it gave you a little bit more. I think it was more, I just wanted to see a little bit more depth.
Sure.
Or a little bit more Wakanda, because 90% of it takes place outside in different historical elements, and we only got to see bits and pieces of where Wakanda was, and the most we saw with it was there's a lot of. The third episode had a lot more humor than the rest of them, because, our war dog in there is just trying to, oh no, I lost communication. I did this. Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, this is a training exercise. Like, you had a lot more almost slapsticky type of comedic moments in there, but it worked. It was fun. It was fun to see a female Iron Fist show up and see the difference, and because of their relationship and how things worked there, of how that played out. And it was a little interesting when we got to the fourth one. You have the prince who's trying to do things a little differently and handle things differently. We're kind of seeing, well, that's kind of where the Black Panther is kind of starting in Wakanda, and you're seeing the beginning of that, but you also get to see like way into the future, even past where the live action films were and stuff. And it does make me wonder exactly where Black Panther 3 might be going. Do we introduce maybe a young version of who the Black Panther Queen is from the fourth episode, that she's trying to, does it lead up to that potential war and everything else we're seeing in there? But we're not going to see it because we get that cut into Eyes of Wakanda, but also doesn't work in the overall scope of like the MCU if they're going to have this big kind of alien war that they have at the end of that. So it might be something that where we just get a little bit of a nod, like, all right, this is her name, and like, oh, okay, so that's from Eyes of Wakanda, and we're setting up where that may go, or we may not. But it's one of those, like, you just don't know, because MCU, you're always thinking about it. How does this tie into the overall? And this is a prequel through time, leading you right up to the first Black Panther movie, and what it tries to tell and do, it does it well enough. Like, it's just, it tells, like I said, it's well animated, it's well voice acted, and everything else. It didn't have a huge impact on me, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's still a fun watch, and it does all of the things it needed to do. Like you said, the animation on it was really well done. Like you said, the voice acting and stuff. The stories don't go super deep, but they're short episodes. Like it's not. It doesn't have the time to go as deep as maybe it could. If all the episodes were an hour, maybe they could have dived in a little deeper. But I don't think that was the intent of this. I think it was, here's what we're telling. Wham, bam, we're done, and we're gonna move on to the next thing. And I think for that, it was fairly effective enough.
Yeah, so in the end, Eyes of Wakanda is a solid little series. It's only 4 episodes. It'll take you about 2 hours to get through it. It's well animated, well voice acted. It tells its story well enough, but it's something that just didn't stick with me afterwards. Like, once I watched it, I'm like, all right, that's good, and I moved on. Like, it wasn't bad, but I don't know, it just didn't have that rewatchability to me for most. Like, I've gone back and rewatched Black Panther 1 and 2 several times now, and I really enjoyed that. It just, I don't know, it felt good, but my brain was also comparing it to Predator Killer of Killers a lot, which was a kind of a surprise that we got, and now we've got something in the Marvel realm that was very similar, but I don't think it was done as kind of well as Predator Killer of Killers did, with the interconnected stories throughout. I'm giving it a 7.5. I don't think it's a terrible series as well. It does have a few problems and issues, but most of it was just, it told its story and it got out.
Yeah, I'm giving it a solid 7. Like I said, it's not earth-shattering for the MCU. It's a fine series in doing what it does. It's very short. It's a quick watch, and it kind of did what it needed to do and got you to the point where, like I said, it ends on that shot with Killmonger in the museum looking at that artifact. So it works its way through time. It's simple enough to follow, and it's a quick bit of entertainment there from Marvel to kind of hold you over until the next thing that comes out. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to go back and revisit it now that I've seen it, so it does kind of knock it down a little bit for me from there, but overall it was just fine. So I think 7 is a nice place to land on it for me.
Actually, I actually thought we were going to be swapped on that one. That I was going to be a little lower and you were going to be a little higher on it. But yeah, it's not bad. It's just nothing that it's just fine. Yeah, that's a kind of the best way to describe it. It's just fine.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.